First of all, thankful for this community. We're thankful for everyone that works within this community. We thank you for our people that do caregiving. We thank you for everybody that's on this council. We know that you know what's in each of our minds, and we want to do your will in this situation. But we also know there's some sadness tonight. We have lost one of our family, Daniel Bagwell, who was a firefighter. We asked you to take him into your arms, love his family, and help them through this very, very difficult time. We ask you to bless this meeting tonight and help us do your will. Help us to always follow your will, whatever we do. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of our September 26th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
First by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. John Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes of September 26th pass unanimously. There's one item of old business, and that item is request consideration of an ordinance to rezone 612 East River Street from R5 Single Family Residential to NC Neighborhood Commercial. Mr. McHugh.
This item, it comes to you on first reading. It was referred to the Planning Commission at their October 4th meeting. Mr. Maurice McKenzie, Planning and Development Director, will go over the item for you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. McHugh. This request before you is to rezone 612 East River Street from R5 Single Family Residential to NC Neighborhood Commercial. And as you can see in your packet, you see the parcel that we're talking about outlined on the map. And it is 1.34 acres in size, and the applicant is requesting to rezone it to neighborhood commercial in order to utilize it for commercial purposes. At the present time, the applicant does not have a specific use for the site, but would like to have it rezoned in order to market it for commercial purposes. The applicant states that the property is really not practical for a residential use. In fact, in its previous lives, over the past several years, it's been in use as a bed and breakfast and a law office and perhaps another office years ago. If you look at the piece of property, there is an asphalt parking lot in the back, which has 20-plus striped parking spaces on the lot. The existing zoning is R5 single-family residential, and what that essentially allows you to do is have higher density single-family lots of at least 5,000 square feet in size. If the existing dwelling did not exist on the site, you could probably build a few houses on the property because it does have frontage along East River Street, and it does have some frontage on Franklin Street as well. Again, you have to have it surveyed and drawn out to see how many lots you could have, but it appears that with it being 1.34 acres, you could actually build houses on the piece of property. But they are requesting NC neighborhood commercial zoning, and what that allows is low-intensity retail uses, office uses that generally serve local neighborhoods. And like I said, it has previously been in use at some point as office space, and that operated as a legal non-conforming use, because since 1998, our zoning has reflected it being zoned as R5 single-family residential. But since it's been vacant for a period of time, it has lost its non-conforming status. Now, when you look at the property and look at what's around it from a zoning standpoint, on either side of the property, you have parcels of land that's zoned neighborhood commercial. Across River Street, you have property that's zoned neighborhood commercial and is developed as such. If you look behind the property, you see more of a residential characteristic going into the neighborhood along Franklin Street and Kennedy Street. And then when you take a step back and look at East River Street corridor as a whole, you see a variety of land uses and zoning classifications, everything from single-family residential to multifamily residential, and just about every commercial zoning classification that we have in our zoning ordinance. Now, this did go before the Planning Commission on October 4th, and they did recommend approval of this request, but it was discussed that this is a speculative rezoning, and in most cases, we do ask for either a plan or at least a proposed use. And in this particular case, we don't have that. And on the flip side, though, it does abut commercially zoned property, which is zone neighborhood commercial, which is what they're asking for. It's located across the street from commercial property. So those are factors that can warrant the rezoning of a piece of property. So yes, it is speculative, which can be a concern. And yes, it does have elements that could justify a rezoning of a piece of property like this. I do want to mention that the East River Street corridor is, as I mentioned a moment ago, stretching from the downtown area all the way out to the city limits, which we kind of consider Belton Highway. You see a variety of land uses and zoning classifications, and generally an inconsistent pattern along the way. And we've all discussed in the past that the East River Street corridor is a major gateway into the city of Anderson, also into our downtown area. And further attention to aesthetics and development patterns is definitely needed. And as you know, we are in the process of updating our comprehensive plan. And throughout the comprehensive plan process, it gives us opportunities to focus on either special areas or on corridors to make sure that we move forward with plans to ensure stability into the future. And we certainly recommend that we focus on the East River Street corridor because it is an important gateway into the city as we go through the comprehensive plan process. I just wanted to add that. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Also, the applicants are in attendance, and they may be able to shed a little bit more light on what their plans are.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, sir.
And maybe before we discuss it as a council, maybe invite the applicants up to introduce yourselves to us and
Hi, I'm Rosemary Cooper. I currently own the property, and I bought the property in 2012, and it was in terrible shape when I bought it. I put a tremendous amount of money in that house because I felt like it was my responsibility to save it. So this application for rezoning is really about preserving the property, putting it into the hands of somebody who will continue to love it the way I did. So the other properties around it definitely need to be uplifted. My understanding from the broker who's looking at it, who's working with me, they have an investor. The last word was that the investor was interested in leaving my property in the condition that it's in, and then building townhouses around it to improve, as you say, the gateway, the corridor into the city. So he wants the three parcels together. That's why the rezoning for neighborhood commercial is important. I believe that it would tamp down on the investor's willingness to purchase the property if it's not rezoned to be a cohesive block.
thank you, Ms. Cooper, and you have done a good job. I actually struggle sometimes on a Sunday run past your house up River Street, and I can remember there were windows missing in that house probably when you purchased it.
Yes, it was in very bad shape.
A good job. Any questions to the applicant?
Clarification, you have a potential buyer who wants to buy
I don't actually know his name.
all three parcels?
Yes, I don't know his name. The broker is working, it's an investor that specifically works with a broker out of Pawleys Island on commercial properties. And so he is interested in the whole block. He's not interested in just 612 East River Street. He wants all three of those to purchase all three of them.
And another point of clarification, you said, does this house stays with townhomes?
My property, it's been told to me that my property would stay in the condition that it's in, and then townhouses would be built around it.
But no contract yet on...
I don't have a contract.
Thank you. Any other questions to Ms. Cooper?
I have one. Why would it be necessary to go to commercial?
I think
first
it's
is
the
going to
cohesiveness of the
residential.
block. I think that's what he's looking for, because the investor through the broker, told me that he wanted to know how difficult it would be to have it rezoned, because he understood that it was, everything was rezoned around it. So he just wanted it to be cohesive.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Thank you.
Mr. Stewart?
Mr. McKenzie. Maurice. In order, if it was sold to a developer and they wanted to put townhomes on each side of it, is there another classification other than general commercial that it could be done to achieve the same thing?
Around the property, multifamily townhouses in this particular case would be allowed in RM10, RM18 zoning, which is our multifamily zoning classifications. You can also have townhouses in limited office as well as neighborhood commercial.
And I guess that's what I wanted to kind of hear, because having it zoned general commercial just kind of gives me a little bit of heartburn, not knowing what's going to go there, not having a contract, and then also the allowed uses under neighborhood commercial. And as we all know, once it's zoned, it's zoned. We can't go back and change the zoning. So if the applicant's investor, was looking at renovating that block there, I would be open to getting a little bit more information on that, and then possibly looking at a little less restrictive zoning, that would still achieve those townhouse type feelings that the applicant had mentioned to us. So, with that being said, I'd just like to make a motion that we table this agenda item until we can get some more information on what's going to go there, and kind of possibly see a site plan or something that the applicant's wanting to do, and then we can talk about what zoning would be, the best fit for that area, being it's the last block going into the city, knowing that we've got the comprehensive plan coming up within about a year, 12, 14 months away. I just really hesitant about zoning a piece of property, not knowing what this plan that this council invested so much in across the city, what it's going to look like coming in through that East River Street corridor, because it is an older neighborhood, and it's probably, back in the heyday, it was probably some of the most well-to people lived along East River Street. And you also have a historic district that kind of is not far from that. And so I just want to be able to protect that neighborhood and what we've done there. So
We'll take the motion. Mr. Stewart made a first. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Lockridge. Any further discussion?
I don't think the team passed that.
Any questions?
So you have a motion on the table.
Right.
We have a second, and then we need you to vote on it.
Okay, I thought maybe we had,
Yeah.
okay.
And unless you have any more questions for Mr. McKenzie.
No, I do think that it's an important corridor. We have made some, I think about the tax preparation office that we have right there in the middle of that block. What's the name of it?
the county complex annex. You talking about the annex?
No,
Oh, you're talking about Emily Owens?
yeah, I mean, that,
The office professional there.
that kind of doesn't fit either, in regards to, now let me do ask a question about the comprehensive plan. So we have an opportunity for the whole city, is my understanding, where we can do zoning within the boundaries of the whole city.
Correct.
Correct?
That's right.
So if there was a focus area you were looking at in the city or any area, and you said, we want this area to be consistently zoned in a different way, you could do that through the zoning map and those regulations upon adopting that ordinance.
Yeah, consistent with, say we do a small area plan of the East River Street corridor. That's going to come at the end with a recommendation of a land use map, a land use pattern, potential rezoning, district, we would then have to implement that and adopt a new rezoning map for that, either that area or the entire city if we did it citywide, to match that and implement that.
So we could possibly have focus areas throughout the whole city.
Absolutely.
That we will approve the zoning plans. Correct?
Well, the focus areas would really just drill down into specific areas like this and do some more intensive design and streetscape work as part of that plan than we would do otherwise throughout the city, right?
I understand. Any other questions? I thank you, the council thanks you, Ms. Cooper, for coming to us and let us know your plans. Hopefully that comes in your favor, and hopefully we can talk a little bit further on down the line once it's a little bit more solid on what exactly maybe your investor would want to do and that contract goes through. Does that make sense? Maybe stay connected to Mr. McKenzie so he can make sure that he keeps that in front of us. Okay? Good. We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. The tabling of this agenda item. We have 5 items of new business, and the first item is request consideration to purchase 2 tractors for the utility division. Mr. McHugh.
I'll go ahead and just call on Utility Director Scott Banks for this request. Mr. Banks.
Thank you, Mr. McHugh. Good evening, council. The sewer department currently has a Bobcat, a skid type loader at each plant for the moving of screening hoppers. We also need tractors with tracks to clean drying beds, which these tractors cannot since they're wheeled. But fortunately, due to the current market, most vendors are giving good trade-in values. With that in mind, we requested pricing from 3 vendors. The apparent low bidder was Bennett Equipment for $49,700. Bobcat was $54,548.22. Blanchard Equipment was $71,920. That pricing, to be clear, is for both tractors with trade-in value for the 2 tractors that we have. The benefit of the tractors that we're specifying is they're 13 more horsepower than the ones we currently have, and they have 1,739 more lift pounds of lift arm force. The new tractors would allow operators better use for what we're doing, but also allow us to be able to clean the drying beds as well. And as I mentioned above, timing for the purchase of these tractors now is good due to that market being favorable for trade-ins. And we currently have a tractor of the make and model that was the apparent low bidder on the right-of-way crew, and we've been very pleased with its service, and so therefore we're comfortable in recommending the purchase of 2 Taguchi model TL10B2R skid steer tractors with buckets from Bennett Equipment in the amount of $49,700.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. Thanks for the detailed explanation. Any questions on the equipment?
I got one question.
Mr. Stewart.
Didn't we just purchase a couple of skid steers? It seemed like it was yesterday for the drying beds and some other things at the wastewater treatment plant. I thought that.
We have not purchased. We did purchase a skid steer, the one that I was talking about, that we use on the right-of-way crew. That has the attachments for the right-of-way and whatnot.
Okay, that may be what I was thinking about.
Yes,
okay. That's all.
That was only about 3 or 4 months ago, I guess.
Okay.
John, did you have something?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
First by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. John Roberts. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Banks.
Thank you.
Our next item is request consideration of a contract for Fire Station 1 renovation.
Okay, due to operating conditions right now with the fire department, we're going to split some of the fire items between myself and Mr. Strickland. Mr. Strickland's been involved in this project here, so Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Mayor, Council, what you have before you is a request to award construction contract for the day room construction, Fire Station 1, Fire Station headquarters here, right behind City Hall. The original day room and kitchen were constructed when the building was originally constructed in 1984, and man, does it look like it. It's in rough shape. Our firefighters put in a lot of time throughout the community doing good work, and they need some facilities that reflect that. And so we contracted with DP3, who does a lot of design for us. And they got together with the firefighters, and they basically designed it with the firefighters from ground up. So the firefighters were able to pick finishes, furniture, floor coverings, kitchen cabinets, all that stuff firefighters like to do, right? And so what we've got now is a good design and a good bid proposal from 4 companies here to give us and update that, or give us a good room, give our firefighters good space to be in and to update that space. We recommend, as does DP3, awarding the contract to Satchel Construction out of Greenville, South Carolina. You'll see that's not the low bidder on the list. The low bidder had some irregularities in their contract and their bid. So DP3 felt comfortable, as do we, in tossing that bid out and going with the next low bid, which is Satchel Construction. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Questions, comments?
Question.
Then we'll go to Mr. Jeff Robertson and Mr. Stewart.
Satchel Construction rings a bell. Is that the same company that was recently awarded the lobby of the rec center?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Also, just my opinion, if you don't have enough money in the job to adequately and sufficiently complete the project, we would be running a risk of the end product.
Talk about the low bidder.
Talking about a low bidder.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart?
Who's going to oversee the construction of the project at DP3? They're going to go out and be our eyes and ears, making sure everything's done appropriately and that type of thing?
Yes, sir.
And is that part of this? Is that under a separate contract?
No, that's under their architectural engineering agreement with DP3. They did the municipal complex here in the NBC recently, and did a fantastic job of having eyes. Their staff member, architect Rhonda, she's just really on top of it. Have full confidence in her just being on top of it. We also have Lucretia involved in the project, and she's involved also in the pad out here too. And we'll be moving forward with that very shortly, waiting on some pricing to come back on that. And so she'll keep some eyes on it as well. And but we're very confident in DP3's details. We're very impressed with them all. The complications of this building at ABC and how they stayed on it.
So would they come back with another contract for inspection services or anything under this project?
It was built into
It was built in their design. They have construction administration dollars built into their original proposal.
Any other questions? Ms. Luggage?
Actually, several questions. One, this is their living space. So for a period of time, they're going to be in a major situation where they don't have a living space. How long will this whole process take? Do we know, or do we know?
Well, I'm hesitant to give a date because of everything that's going on now. For instance, the shared kitchen has been going on for a little while, and supply chain, equipment delays, all that sort of thing has pushed it out a good bit. So,
What do they do in the meantime?
so it's designed to take about 6 months to finish.
So
I would just be comfortable with that.
They'll just have to work around it.
Just have to work around it. That's right. And not some of the stuff can be phased too. I mean, we can shift around in that space, and they can habit it while cabinets are being done, that sort of thing. So we can work around that.
Well, I know it's got to be done because, I've been there. It's something they need.
There is another room too. They have a little small training room. You can turn that into a day room and stuff like that.
Well,
There's a
I'd
couple
like
of
to go ahead and
things
see
you can
this
change around.
down. So I make a motion that we go ahead and renovate this fire station.
Second.
Well, first by Mr. Lockridge, second by Dr. Thompson. Further discussion? Ms. Roberts?
Mr. Stewart and I were sort of whispering over here, but this is a straight-out bid per spec. There's no built-in contingency or for overages and so on.
Unexpected, anything?
Is that correct?
That's,
It's straight bid on the items listed.
that's right, that's right.
Kind of like a small kitchen, you know, probably, y'all could probably supervise this, right? Renovating it,
Oh, yeah.
floor coloring,
I'm really happy to not do it.
to not do it. No, that's a good point. And I guess the point being is that it's pretty straightforward stuff.
And let me clarify something I did say. I think I just said 6 months out loud. The contract completion date is 90 days, but I'm gonna give them a window
Yeah.
right now.
But you have
Understands, right?
You have the kitchen equipment and stuff like that, once you got put on order, wait on that supply, obviously.
I probably should know this, but are we in the same situation with Station 2? Or have we done
Station
something to
2,
that?
we actually re-roofed it recently, and
The interior-wise?
yeah, we have a couple gentlemen in the fire department that did a lot of work out there. They renovated the bathrooms themselves.
That's right.
Did a phenomenal job. The kitchen is on the other side. Is looks actually better than this one.
Yeah.
It is a small station. It holds 4 people though that we have stationed there right now. In the great scheme of things of the city and this growth and this direction, yeah, I mean, I would see us replacing that station and 2 units running out of it at some point because it's very center in the city.
Right.
It's become even more important, and they run a lot of calls out of there. But that's for another day. So.
Yeah, it's a big lot. Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Strickland. Ms. McEwen. Our third item of new business is request consideration of purchase 2 fire trucks and required accessory equipment for the fire department. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, as you can remember, back in I think it was 2016. Am I right about that, Margo? We bought engine 1, currently in front support vehicle, engine 1, and ladder 1 that you see both at headquarters right now. Pierce Manufacturing, great vehicles, and then in existence we have 3 engines. We have a ladder. We have a battalion chief vehicle, a rescue truck, a reserve engine, a reserve ladder, which is that other platform truck that you see before we bought ladder 1, supporting that. We keep that in reserve, and that's been very helpful for us. And then SITS support vehicles and so forth. So this was a planned replacement in 2016, this was a planned cycle replacement for us to be able to replace 2 engines, and target the engines that are being replaced here are engine 2, which is the 2010 Pierce fire engine, and also a 2007 fire engine out of Station 3 out of Simpson Road. So those are the 2 that would be replaced. So the purchase is for the request of 2 engines. The key now is you could order these, they're custom built, and so we go to actually the plant, they're spec'd out. There's a truck committee within the fire department. They work on that for a long period of time. They've been working on it, the last 3-4 months, very diligently, and getting the exact specs they want. Basically, what this truck looks like was just some minor changes of the engine 1 that we bought back in 2016, with some updated changes that be in 2022 today. And so that's the truck committee recommended to the command staff of the fire department, then was recommended to us. I agree with the recommendation. Their command staff agrees with the recommendation as well from the truck committee, and I'm glad for their diligent, detailed work they did. So they specify it out, and then what it is for, of course, a custom-built truck. In this case, they were able to use, and this has become popular because you have states that issue these state contracts. Our state doesn't have a really abundant way, and they haven't gotten into the fire trucks yet, doing a large state contract for it, but other states have, and we can ride off co-op agreements. In this case, Chief King explained to me that we're riding off of the state of Texas that had Pierce Manufacturing, and pricing there. So the pricing to what the state of Texas had for this type of vehicle. And so that helps us out a lot than if we would just go out and go to Pierce and get a price. And so that's helpful. The other thing about it too is the thing you want to do in fire department that's very important, and as a former firefighter I would say, is standardize the equipment and standardize the specs to the truck. There's some updates and that kind of thing, but one truck should look like the other truck where equipment is, because these trucks get switched around a lot. They go in reserve. Sometimes things happen to them. You got to rotate it. You need to know exactly where the equipment is, the type of pump you're operating, the capacity of it, the operational ability of the truck. And so all those dynamics are extremely important to the fire engineer, the one that operates the truck. So in this case, this continues our standardization of us having all Pierce manufactured trucks, but we were able to use a larger price strategy here to get it for $1.48 million. The difference in today, just like building, right, and everything else, is you used to be able to get these custom trucks, order it, and 11 months later you would go to the plant and do a full inspection of it. It was built, and it, and you get it at month 12 or month 13. In this case, we're looking at 20 to 24 months out. 24 months out is now more realistic, so it's really important to get our order in and get the truck being built, and we'll do the same thing. We'll be invited down there to the plant. There's one in Florida. I don't know if it'll be the Pierce manufacturing plant in Florida, or they also have one up north that will build these. I believe these will come out of Florida. And you go down there, you inspect it, and you do a punch list, just like you would do when you're building something. They'll fix everything right there that you identify that's different than the specs that you had, or you see something different that needs to be changed, and that's part of the process. And so it's a really good process. It worked out really good for Engine 1, and Engine 1 is fantastic, and also Ladder 1. And you can see them out about the community, gorgeous trucks, but they have very good operational capability for our fire department. We are ISO 1, so we're top-ranked fire department in the country. Very proud of that. And as part of that, they look at equipment replacement. And again, this was a planned equipment replacement. In 2007, I will say, and I was a firefighter back then, when these trucks came out, there was a first in that area, 2005, 2006, 2007, and that's what we're experiencing a little bit with Engine 3 not a little bit, a good bit, is that there was, first it looked like they came out with the new exhaust standards for diesel trucks. And it looked like fire trucks were going to be exempted. And then last minute, they weren't. And so these trucks came in with a very quickly engineered way of trying to meet the carbon emissions coming out of the truck, the CO2 emissions. And it was rushed. It was rushed across all manufacturers, and every manufacturer was doing it a little bit different. But it's caused a lot of problems from that year of that technology that they built in. It's since changed, and it's much better than it was there. But we've had it puts a lot of strain on the motor, the technology that they use, which is basically it goes into this filter, and then the truck has to run so long, and then it burns it off at like 1,500 degrees. It burns all those particles off. And so the problem with fire trucks, it works great on an 18-wheeler because you're cruising out on the road, it kicks in, it's called regen, it kicks in, it burns it all off. It doesn't work great on fire trucks because we're not doing that. We're getting a truck, going to a call very quickly, returning to service, getting it back in the bay, you're not running it. So you have to force regen to clean it out, and then what it does, if it doesn't clean out, causes engine issues, and we've experienced that with this 2007. So this is a good replacement for this Engine 3, and then also Engine 2, it just has a lot of use on it as well. And so for Engine 3, we would look for it to actually go out on gov deals. It would be something that a broker would take on and actually broker it and sell it off as a first-class fire engine. It looks great, it really does. It just has that technology is a real struggle on it. We've had them work on it. It's been in the shop a lot, and so we would want to remove it out of the fleet, and GovDiz would be the option and the way to do that. We would keep 2 in reserve, so we would, they're still doing an assessment if they're going to keep, Engine 2 is one we would keep, and then one of the older reserve engines would move out of the cycle here. And so But again, we want to put this order in, we need them, and there's a long lead time here, so it was important to get this before you. And again, this is a planned cycle. We just thought, we wouldn't plan on really the 24th month lead time. That's something we found out during the process. But, so this item, and I will say the other item that goes with you. So one thing you want to do here is, since we're not, we don't prepay for these. And so we pay for them when they're ready, and after we inspect them and we're satisfied with them, we pay for them. And so in that case, there's no reason to take debt service out when there's a 24-month lead time. So the next item, I'll just kind of introduce it as well, is, and it gives us a little bit of a cushion there, but it's just a resolution. It's not debt service. It's a resolution that allows us, it's just a process, it's an administrative process that allows us to reimburse ourselves for this cost when we're ready to pay for it through when the lease purchase. We do this 5-year lease purchase for large equipment like this that you are familiar with. So the resolution itself is not issuing debt. What it's doing is just allowing us to acknowledge the fact that we're buying this, we plan to do a lease purchase with it, and then we would, as part of our normal budget of how we buy this type of equipment, and then we would reimburse ourselves, but we're not issuing any debt until another fiscal year. So, any questions, I'll try to answer them for you. Of course, it's an engine. The whole truck comes with it. So, but anyways, it's also, I will say, built into this too. I missed an important point. That so it's required. There's a National Fire Protection Association standard for fire trucks and engine itself, and what equipment must be on it. And so this also includes all the new equipment that's required to be on it. So it's built into that cost.
Great, thank you. We have 2 action items, and they both relate to each other, but let's go into, we'll vote separately on each one of these, but let's have an open discussion about both items. I'll open it up for discussion.
Question.
Mr. Stewart.
So the equipment, the Pierce, they have the equipment, they'll install the equipment, we don't have to go to a separate vendor for the equipment that's required on the truck.
Correct. So what we plan on doing, this is a little bit of a strategy, is to issue it under one PO. They order all the equipment and everything for it, and really turnkey. Right.
And so the resolution, so we're looking at $1,480,000, but the resolution is for 1,525. The difference there is because what?
Because this is simply just a resolution, and so in case anything were to happen in the 24-month time period, I mean, just with the world and everything else, we don't want to have messed up the resolution. Because once you lock that in, you lock it in. But we're not issuing debt service, but that's what they hold us to, right? And so if it, everything looks good, it's 1.48 billion like we expected it to be, because that's that PO that we signed with Pierce, then we'll issue debt service for that amount. But the resolutions kind of loosen that, so we just didn't want to narrow ourselves and kind of put ourselves in a bind.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Roberts?
This goes to funding as well. So we would borrow at a 5-year term, 4%. Those annual payments are $337,000. If you do the math there, it's $1,685,000. Now, that's just simply the terms of borrowing and the lease agreement. We will keep that truck. Some of these other trucks are 15 years old.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So once the payout is achieved, those trucks will remain in service for
typically the rule
15 years.
The rule with fire trucks, ladders and the platform truck. So the other one that we have, the older ladder, is actually a platform truck. You keep those in service a little bit longer, and they typically, the rule has always been, say, 15 years. That's front line. Okay. Now, if you're in the city of Charlotte, they're running every day. You're going to have to replace those, every 5-6 years, like city of New York and that kind of thing. But for a regional city like ourselves, typically the ladder's been 15 years. Frontline engines have been 10 years, and you can see that we've gotten that out of this, right? And so that's the same plan. then they would just move, if it stays in good shape. Again, this is kind of the exception, engine 3, with the technology issues that occurred during that time frame. But staying in good shape, it would go to reserve, and then you move the oldest reserve truck out of the fleet. And then also, you got to keep in mind, we'll be preparing, and we have it built into our financial model, and then also building up for Station 4 to even buy another engine. And we also have built into the financial model the staffing required for Station 4.
So these payments wouldn't begin until 20 months, or we take possession of it?
Right.
Correct?
That's correct.
Also, Jeff, that estimated payment's a high payment because it's based on the $1,525,000. That was your worst-case scenario of debt service.
It's based on the resolution amount.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor,
Any other questions, Ms. Lockridge?
I just want clarification on something. You said that this new one that we're getting has a different system that recycles the carbon, so it's not as straining on the engine?
Right, exactly. So they did away with the way how it has to burn itself off through the filter, and now there's the depth that you add to the diesel, and it helps treat it. So none of that was in existence back then. So it was just it was really weird. I mean, I received one of those trucks when I was a firefighter, and we really struggled with it. I mean, brand new truck, and we struggled with the technology right from the get-go, and knew it was going to be a problem. But it took them a while to develop it. Just so now it's the same thing that you see in the new trucks, any other diesel truck that you have. Even the technology that you would see in like an F450 or F550, what we buy at Public Works is the F650s. And so it's the same thing, and it works well.
Dave, I know over years, we've already had a pretty high rating with our fire department. Where do we stand right now?
The highest rating there is.
The highest rating?
A 1
That would be like what?
A 1 out of 10. And so that a 1 is 10% of the fire departments in the country, or a 1. And so they do look at this. So when they come in, they evaluate us. They say, what's your equipment replacement? And they look from engines to air pads to turnout gear, everything. It's very thorough, and they evaluate you on that. And we have all this built into not only our financial model. It's not just listed out; it's funded through our financial model, given that you all approve it. When the requests come above. But so this is part of the replacement plan.
Thank you. Any other questions? Let's do item 3.
Item 3. Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to request the purchase of 2 fire engines from Pierce Manufacturing.
Have a first by Mr. Roberts.
Second.
Second by Mr. Stewart. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4 is request consideration of a resolution authorizing the City of Anderson to reimburse certain expenditures made prior to the issuance of equipment, capital lease purchase not exceeding $1.525 million.
I move that we pass this resolution.
Second.
Have a first by the Mayor Pro Tem, second by Mr. Lockridge. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you, Council, for that. I know they're going to be, the truck committee especially, and the fire department as a whole, very excited for your funding, both of those new pieces of equipment. And also appreciate the due diligence of the truck committee for really looking into the details on this and making a recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Our last item of new business is request consideration of a paving resolution to Anderson County, the Anderson County Transportation Committee, and the South Carolina Department of Transportation. Mr. McEwen.
Okay, well, I'll just start off real quick and ask Mr. McKenzie to come. I believe he'll be presenting this item. One thing we try to do is always keep an application before the ACTC, the Anderson County Transportation Committee. And so with that, from time to time, we need to renew it. We've been funded at times, and they've treated us very, very fairly over the years. And then they kind of wait for their money to build back up, and then they consider the applications before them. So with that, I'll let Mr. McKenzie talk a little bit about this application in particular, because it's the same application that we had last year, because one road was funded, but they didn't have the money built up. Know some other requests, some other cities and stuff had not gotten anything recently, and they had put in at that time, along with the county and along with the state as well, competes for this money. So, Mr. McKenzie, with that.
Okay, thank you. And City Manager pretty much described the reason why we do this, but on an annual basis, typically in October, November, we submit to Anderson County and the SCDOT and the Anderson County Transportation Committee, the ACTC, priority paving resolutions to each agency. And we anticipate they take these and it helps them in their planning and prioritization as they look to pave streets with their funds. And as Mr. McHugh had mentioned, this past year with ACTC funding, we only had one street that was paved. And with the SCDOT list, there are a few streets paved, but they didn't really affect the top part of our list. So what you see before you are lists that are pretty close to what you saw last year. But again, each year they would like to have these priority lists refreshed for new applications. And when we do rank these streets, we use an SCDOT weighted ranking system. It looks at things like pavement condition, average daily traffic, the amount of population that's affected by the streets, and also the economic and community impact. And tonight in your packets, you see two lists. One's a state list, one's a local list. That is just a portion of the list we have. We have an extensive list of probably 100, 200 streets on each one, but we don't need to submit the entire list to each of our partners because they can't get all the way down to the bottom of the list. So we give them a good portion of those. So that's what you see before you today. But again, we recommend approval of these resolutions so we can forward these to our partners. And if you do approve it, what will be coming around are three different resolutions, obviously, one for the county, one for the ACTC, and one for the DOT. So if you don't mind signing all three of those.
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie. Any questions, any comments?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Ms. McKenzie, the question I have is, you said the SCDOT list last year did some, but they were not the ones at the top of the list.
Correct.
Is there a reason for that?
There is no reason for that. We give this as a guide, and they have their own priorities as well. We typically hope they use this. It's not uncommon that they don't hit the top 2 or 3 on our list, but certainly we're fortunate when they do pave streets. And on my desk at the Municipal Business Center, I have a list of those streets. I failed to bring them over today, but it did not affect the top portion of the state list.
Thank you. Anything else, guys?
For ACTC, we do a 10% match, is that correct?
Correct. And we have that budgeted.
Any other questions?
Do we want to do this one at a time?
I think we can pass all the resolutions at one time and sign them individually.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the 3 resolutions for the Anderson County Transportation Committee, one for the DOT and one for Anderson County for paving.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Stewart, a second by Mr. Jeff Roberts. Any other questions, comments? I will say that I would like to publicly thank the Anderson County Transportation Committee for the work they do, and as Mr. McEwen said, they've always been very fair to all the municipalities within the county. It's a lot of infrastructure needs in our city, and I guess even in our county. We have talked about a couple of projects even this evening, and I guess I'll publicly say at some point in time we need to consider a road tax, a penny sales tax for infrastructure, because we need to be able to take care of ourselves and not depend on the whims of state government. That makes sense.
This is state gas tax money.
It's just, and that gas tax, the tier increases of that gas tax has stopped. and we were behind when we increased the gas tax, and it would be good if we could, if the gas tax would keep increasing. But my fear is that I don't know about y'all, but I get a lot of questions about roads and potholes. And it's just not coming quick enough here for us to do it. You know, when I look at, I mean, the hundreds of miles of roads that we even have in this county, and even narrowing it down to the city. So, for what it's worth, penny sales tax. Somebody needs to champion penny sales tax.
That sounds like you just did.
Somebody other than the elected official. Because they won't trust us to do what they, you know. But anyway.
Mayor, to echo your comments, it is becoming one of our, and I think most of y'all will agree with me, it's becoming one of the most commonly asked questions. And unfortunately, as Mr. McKenzie just stated, we're not seeing progress being made. So, you know, it's only getting worse. And you drive an old car like I do, you learn what roads and which side of the road and yellow line to be on to not get your teeth jolted out. But we're going to have to come up with a plan somehow. So
Continue to grow the city, it's going to get worse.
In our neighboring, I mean, Lawrence County just did it, what, a couple of years ago? Or this past, last November, I think.
Yeah, Greenwood County has a funding mechanism. Greenwood County's done a really good job.
Greenwood County's done a good job. Obviously, Rock Hill is the difference. You see the immediate difference. And I think it's ones in Charleston, Staunton.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they're on the table too, so. But anyway, I'll get off
And I do have one more item before we close.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
And this is just a quick announcement, Mr. Stricker.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. I want to remind everyone of an event we have going on tomorrow night, Anderson Farm to Table. That's at the Church Street Heritage Plaza from 6 to 9. It's the rebranded Fresh Taste. If you guys are familiar with Fresh Taste event of the past, we haven't had in person since 2019. We took the opportunity to rebrand and refresh the event. We have 11 participating restaurants downtown. They'll be out there giving samples. And then we also have our wine distributors have donated wine to the event. 50% of the proceeds from the wine tastings will go to the United Way. So come out for a fun event and give to a good cause.
Cool.
There you go.
Let's be there. Let's show up. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Mr. Newton, second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.